In a city buzzing with life, one woman's quiet courage changed everything. Meet Clara Evans, a veteran bound to a wheelchair, whose heart refused to be confined. On a chilly morning, she saw a stranger shivering in the shadows, a homeless man named Daniel. What she did next sparked a movement that would light up their town and prove that kindness can rewrite any story. This is a veteran's gift. Clara Evans navigated the bustling streets of Riverton in her motorized wheelchair, the hum of its motor a familiar companion. At 32, she carried the weight of her past, 7 years in the Army, a roadside bomb in her final deployment, and a spinal injury that ended her career. Her dark hair was pulled into a practical ponytail, and her hazel eyes scanned the world with a soldier's vigilance. Riverton, a mid-sized city with a mix of glass towers and aging brick storefronts, was her home now, though it often felt like a battlefield of a different kind, indifferent faces, hurried steps, and the occasional pitying glance. It was a crisp, October morning, the kind where the air bit at your fingertips. Clara was heading to the community center where she volunteered, teaching basic computer skills to kids from low-income families. Her wheelchair glided over the uneven sidewalk, her gloved hands deftly steering. She wore a faded green jacket, a relic from her service days, its patches worn but proud. As she turned onto Maple Street, she noticed a figure huddled against the wall of a shuttered deli, wrapped in a threadbare blanket. Most passers-by ignored him, their eyes sliding past as if he were part of the scenery. Clara slowed. The man's face was weathered, his beard patchy, but his eyes, bright blue and startlingly clear, met hers for a fleeting moment. A cardboard sign at his feet read, "Hungry. Anything helps." A cracked coffee mug held a few coins. Clara's heart tugged. She'd seen hardship before, in war zones and in her own recovery, but this was different. This was home, and this man was invisible to the city around him. She stopped her chair a few feet away. "Hey," she said, her voice steady but warm. "You okay out here? It's freezing." The man blinked, startled, as if unused to being addressed. "I'm managing," he said, his voice rough but polite. "Name's Daniel." "Clara," she replied. "You look like you could use a hot meal." Daniel shrugged, a faint smile cracking his chapped lips. "Wouldn't say no to that." Clara glanced at her watch. She had an hour before her class. The diner across the street, Rosie's, was a local staple, greasy, cheap, and always open. "Come on," she said, nodding toward it. "My treat." Daniel hesitated, eyeing her wheelchair, then the diner. "You don't have to—" "I know I don't," Clara cut in, her tone firm but kind. "But I'm hungry too. Let's go." Inside Rosie's, the smell of bacon and coffee enveloped them. Clara maneuvered to a table near the window, and Daniel followed, clutching his blanket like a lifeline. The waitress, a woman with a name tag reading Tina, raised an eyebrow but said nothing as she handed them menus. Clara ordered pancakes and coffee. Daniel, after some coaxing, asked for eggs and toast. As they waited, Clara learned bits of Daniel's story. He was 45, a former mechanic who'd lost his job when the auto shop closed, then his apartment when he couldn't keep up with rent. He'd been on the streets for 2 years, bouncing between shelters and sidewalks. "You don't owe me your story," Clara said, sipping her coffee. "But I'm listening if you want to share." Daniel's eyes softened. "Most folks don't ask. They just walk by." Clara nodded. She knew what it felt like to be unseen. After her injury, the world had seemed to shrink, people treating her like a problem to be solved or a burden to be pitied. She'd fought to reclaim her place, volunteering, living independently, proving she was more than her chair. Now she saw a chance to help someone else do the same. Their food arrived and Daniel ate slowly, savoring each bite. Clara watched, her pancakes untouched for a moment. An idea was forming, one she couldn't shake. "Daniel," she said, leaning forward, "what do you need most right now? besides food. He paused, a piece of toast halfway to his mouth. A job, he said quietly. Something to get me back on my feet. I'm good with cars, but no one's hiring a guy who looks like me. Clara's mind raced. She knew people in Riverton, veterans groups, local businesses, folks at the community center. Maybe she could connect Daniel with someone. But it was more than that. She felt a pull, a need to do something bigger, though she wasn't sure what yet. After they finished, Clara paid the bill and handed Daniel a card with her number. "Call me if you need anything," she said, "and come by the community center on 5th Street. I'm there most days." Daniel took the card, his fingers trembling slightly. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. Clara smiled, a little sadly. "Because I know what it's like to feel like the world's given up on you." As she wheeled out of the diner, the cold air hit her face, but her chest felt warm. She didn't know it yet, but that moment, those 20 minutes in a diner, would set off a chain of events that would change Riverton forever. Clara couldn't stop thinking about Daniel. Over the next few days, she asked around at the community center, probing for leads on jobs or shelters that might help. Most responses were shrugs or vague promises, but Clara wasn't one to give up. She'd faced worse odds, relearning to navigate life after her injury, fighting through physical therapy, proving to herself she could still make a difference. This was just another mission. She started small. At the community center, she spoke to Maria, the director, a no-nonsense woman with a knack for getting things done. "Know anyone hiring mechanics?" Clara asked, explaining Daniel's situation. Maria frowned. "Not off the top of my head, but I'll ask around. He'd need to clean up, though. First impressions matter." Clara nodded. She knew the practical side of helping someone like Daniel wasn't just about goodwill. It required a plan. She called a friend, Jamal, who ran a veterans support group. Jamal was a former Marine, broad-shouldered and quick to laugh, but serious when it came to helping others. "I might know a guy," he said. "Owns a garage on the east side. I'll make a call." Meanwhile, Clara kept an eye out for Daniel. She found him a few days later, in the same spot by the deli. This time she brought a thermos of coffee and a bag of sandwiches from Rosie's. "You're gonna get sick of me," she said, handing him the food. Daniel chuckled, a low, raspy sound. "Doubt that." She told him about the garage lead. His eyes lit up, but doubt crept in. "They won't hire me," he said. "I got no address, no clean clothes. I look like this." Clara leaned forward. "We'll fix that. Step 1. You need a shower and some clothes. Step 2. We get you to that garage." Daniel looked skeptical, but Clara's determination was infectious. She arranged for him to use the community center's shower facilities, usually reserved for staff, and dug through her own closet for clothes that might fit, some oversized sweatshirts and jeans she'd bought before realizing they didn't suit her style. She also reached out to a local thrift store, which donated a pair of boots and a jacket after she explained her mission. The next day, Daniel showed up at the community center, looking nervous but cleaner, his beard trimmed. Clara wheeled up grinning. "You clean up nice," she said. He blushed, tugging at the jacket. "Feels weird, like I'm borrowing someone else's life." "It's your life," Clara said firmly. "You're just taking it back." Jamal's contact, a gruff mechanic, named Eddie, agreed to meet Daniel. Clara went with him, her wheelchair bumping over the gravel lot outside Eddie's auto repair. Eddie was skeptical at first, eyeing Daniel's worn appearance, but Clara's presence and her quiet, no-nonsense advocacy shifted the mood. "He's got skills," she said. "Give him a shot to prove it." Eddie gave Daniel a test. Diagnose. A rattling engine. Daniel dove in, his hands steady as he worked. 40 minutes later, he'd pinpointed a loose timing belt. Eddie raised an eyebrow, impressed. "All right," he said. "Start Monday. Part-time for now. Don't make me regret it." Clara felt a surge of pride as Daniel shook Eddie's hand. But as they left the garage, she noticed Daniel's expression, hopeful, but guarded. "What's wrong?" she asked. "It's just, one job ain't enough," he said. "I need a place to stay, or I'll lose this before I even start." Clara nodded. She'd been so focused on the job, she hadn't thought about the bigger picture. Housing was a hurdle, and Riverton's shelters were overcrowded. But Clara wasn't one to back down. She started calling local organizations, hitting dead ends, but refusing to stop. She posted about Daniel's situation on a community forum online, carefully keeping his identity private. To her surprise, responses poured in, offers of clothes, food, even a few bucks from strangers. One reply stood out, a woman named Sarah, who ran a small non-profit for homeless outreach. Sarah offered to meet Clara and Daniel to discuss temporary housing options. At their meeting, Sarah was blunt but kind. "We've got a program for folks like Daniel," she said. "It's not fancy, shared rooms, strict rules, but it's a start. If he sticks with the job, we can help with something more permanent." Clara felt a spark of hope. She looked at Daniel, who nodded slowly. "I'll do whatever it takes," he said. As they left the meeting, Clara's mind was already racing ahead. Helping Daniel was opening her eyes to Riverton's bigger issues. Too many people like him, too few resources. She started wondering what else she could do, not just for Daniel, but for others. She didn't know it yet, but her small act of kindness was starting to ripple through the city, catching the attention of people she'd never met. Word of Clara's efforts spread quietly at first. The community center became a hub of sorts, with volunteers and locals dropping by to ask about that veteran helping the homeless guy. Clara was embarrassed by the attention. She hadn't done it for praise, but she couldn't deny the energy building around her. People wanted to help. A local barber offered free haircuts for anyone in need. A coffee shop donated day-old pastries. Even Tina, the waitress from Rosie's, started slipping extra food into Daniel's takeout bags. Clara saw an opportunity. She organized a meeting at the community center, inviting anyone interested in helping Riverton's homeless population. About 20 people showed up: Jamal, Sarah, Maria, and a mix of locals, including a city council member named Lisa Tran, who'd heard about Clara through the grapevine. Lisa was young, ambitious, and known for pushing community initiatives. She listened as Clara outlined her vision, a coordinated effort to connect people like Daniel with jobs, housing, and support. "It's not just about one person," Clara said, her voice steady despite the room's eyes on her. "There are hundreds of Daniels out there. We need a system, jobs, training, housing, all working together." Lisa nodded, jotting notes. "This could be big," she said. "But it'll take resources. I can push for city funding, maybe get some businesses on board." Clara wasn't used to this, big ideas, city politics, but she felt the momentum. She and Sarah started mapping out a plan, a pilot program to help 10 homeless individuals with job training, temporary housing, and mentorship. Daniel, now working part-time at Eddie's garage, became their first success story. He moved into Sarah's nonprofit's shared housing, a small room he shared with 2 others, but it was a roof, a bed, and a lock on the door. He showed up to work every day, his confidence growing. Clara, meanwhile, was juggling her own challenges. Her disability benefits barely covered her rent, and volunteering took time she could have spent on a paying job. But she couldn't stop. Every time she saw Daniel's progress, or heard about another person helped by the community's efforts, she felt a purpose she hadn't known since her army days. One evening, as she wheeled home, she passed a group of teenagers painting a mural on a community center wall. It depicted a wheelchair, stylized with vibrant colors, alongside hands reaching out to help. Clara stopped, her throat tightening. "That's me?" she asked. One of the teens, a girl with purple hair, grinned. "Yeah, you're kinda a big deal around here." Clara laughed, shaking her head. She didn't feel like a big deal. She felt like someone who'd seen a need and acted. But the mural, and the growing support made her realize her actions were inspiring others. She started a social media page to coordinate donations and volunteers, calling it Riverton Rises. Posts about Daniel's progress, shared with his permission, got hundreds of likes. People shared their own stories: veterans, homeless individuals, families struggling to get by. Clara read every comment, her heart swelling and breaking at once. Lisa, the council member, became a key ally. She invited Clara to speak at a city council meeting, where Clara pitched the pilot program. Nervous but determined, she wheeled to the podium, her voice clear. "This isn't about charity," she said. "It's about giving people a chance to rebuild. I've seen what happens when you believe in someone. It works." The council approved a small grant to fund the program, and Lisa pulled Clara aside after. "You've got a gift," she said. "People listen to you. Keep going." Clara wasn't sure she wanted to be a leader, but she couldn't deny the impact. Businesses started donating. Construction companies offered apprenticeships. Restaurants provided meals. Even Eddie, Daniel's boss, got involved, offering to train others in auto repair. Clara's small act of buying a meal had grown into something she couldn't have imagined. But challenges loomed. The pilot program was small, and demand was high. Clara and Sarah worked late nights, sorting applications, matching people with resources. Clara's health, always a balancing act, started to strain under the pressure. She ignored the fatigue, the occasional spasms in her back. There was too much to do. One night, Daniel stopped by the community center. He looked different, steadier, his eyes brighter. "I got a full-time offer," he said, grinning. "Eddie says I'm his best worker." Clara's face lit up. "That's amazing, Daniel." He hesitated, then added, "I heard it's your birthday soon. 33rd, right?" Clara blinked. She'd forgotten her own birthday was coming, October 25th, just a week away. "How'd you know?" Maria mentioned it. "Said you never make a fuss. But I was thinking, maybe we should do something for you." Clara waved him off. "I don't need anything. This..." She gestured to the bustling community center. "This is enough." Daniel smiled, but his eyes held a spark of mischief. Clara didn't know it, but he was already planning something. A way to give back to the woman who'd given him a second chance. Daniel wasn't the only one thinking about Clara's birthday. Word had spread through the community center. Then, beyond, about the veteran in the wheelchair who'd sparked a movement. People wanted to celebrate her, not just for Daniel, but for the dozens of lives she'd touched. The pilot program was now supporting 10 people, with 5 in jobs and housing, and the Riverton Rises page had thousands of followers. Clara, oblivious to the buzz, kept working, unaware that a plan was forming behind her back. Daniel met with Maria and Sarah at Rosie's Diner, the same place where Clara had first bought him a meal. "She won't want a big deal," Daniel said, sipping coffee. "But she deserves it." Maria nodded. "Clara's stubborn. If we tell her we're planning something, she'll shut it down." Sarah, practical as ever, suggested a low-key event. At the community center. A potluck, some music, a chance for the community to say thank you. But Daniel had a bigger idea. What if we did something outside? Like, close off a street, make it a block party, show her the whole city's behind. Her? Maria raised an eyebrow. Close a street? That's ambitious. Daniel shrugged. She gave me a life back. I want to give her something big. They brought the idea to Lisa Tran, who loved it. As a council member, she had pull with the mayor's office. She pitched a one-day street closure on Maple Street, where Clara had first met Daniel. The mayor, a pragmatic woman named Ellen Carter, was intrigued. She'd followed Clara's work through Lisa and saw political value in supporting a feel-good story. If the community's on board, I'll sign off, Ellen said. But you'll need permits, security, the works. Lisa took charge, coordinating with city officials, while Maria and Sarah rallied volunteers. Daniel, now a familiar face at the community center, recruited people Clara had helped, former homeless individuals, veterans, families. They wanted to keep it a surprise, which meant working around Clara's near-constant presence. They planned the event for her birthday, a Saturday, and disguised it as a community cleanup day to throw her off. Clara, meanwhile, was buried in work. The pilot program was thriving, but funding was tight, and she was pushing for more city support. She met with Lisa weekly, unaware that Lisa was juggling council duties with party planning. Clara's health was fraying. Her back spasms were worse, and she was skipping meals to keep up with emails and calls. Jamal noticed, pulling her aside one day. "You're burning out," he said. "Slow down." "I can't," Clara said, her voice tight. "If I stop, this all falls apart." Jamal shook his head. "It's not just on you. You built something. Let us carry it for a bit." Clara didn't listen. She kept going, driven by the faces of the people she'd helped. Daniel, now saving for his own apartment. A woman named Keisha, who'd landed a retail job. A veteran named Tom, starting carpentry training. But her body was protesting, and one night she collapsed in her apartment, her wheelchair tipping as a spasm hit. She managed to call Jamal, who rushed over, helping her back into her chair. "You gotta rest," he said, his voice firm. "You're no good to anyone if you break." Clara nodded, tears in her eyes. She hated feeling weak, but she knew he was right. She took a day off, her first in months, and spent it quietly, unaware that Maple Street was being transformed. Volunteers strung lights across lampposts, set up tables with donated food, and built a small stage. Local businesses chipped in, Rosie's, provided trays of sandwiches, a bakery donated a cake, and a band offered to play for free. Daniel worked tirelessly, his hands calloused from days at the garage. He painted a sign that read, "Thank you, Clara," in bold letters. He also reached out to the teens who'd painted the mural, asking them to create a new one for the event, this time on a portable canvas, a portrait of Clara, surrounded by the community she'd built. On the morning of October 25th, Clara woke to a text from Maria. "Meet me at Maple Street at noon. Cleanup day, need your help." Clara sighed, tempted to skip it, but duty pulled her out of bed. She dressed, in her usual jacket and jeans, unaware that Riverton was about to give her the surprise of a lifetime. Clara arrived at Maple Street just before noon, her wheelchair humming over the familiar pavement. She expected to see volunteers with trash bags, maybe a few city workers. Instead, she found the street blocked off, barricades at both ends, and a crowd of hundreds, faces she recognized and many she didn't. Music played from a stage, and the air smelled of grilled food and fresh coffee. A banner stretched across the street. "Happy birthday, Clara! Riverton rises!" Clara froze, her hands gripping her chair's controls. "What the hell is this?" she muttered, her cheeks flushing. Daniel appeared, grinning, wearing a clean flannel shirt and jeans. "Happy birthday," he said, his voice warm. "Don't be mad. We wanted to do this right." Maria and Sarah joined him, followed by Lisa, Jamal, and a dozen others. Clara's eyes darted from face to face. People she'd helped, volunteers, even Mayor Carter, who stepped forward with a microphone. "Clara Evans," the mayor said, her voice carrying over the crowd. "You've shown us what one person can do. Today, Riverton says thank you." The crowd cheered, and Clara felt her throat tighten. She wasn't used to this. Attention. Praise. She'd always been the one in the background, fixing things, helping others. Now the city was looking at her, and she didn't know how to feel. Lisa took the mic next, announcing that the city had approved expanded funding for the pilot program, now called the Clara Evans Initiative. "Because of you," Lisa said, looking at Clara, "we're building a better Riverton." Clara managed a shaky smile, her hands trembling. Daniel wheeled the canvas mural forward, unveiling it to gasps and applause. It showed Clara in her chair, her face determined, surrounded by hands holding tools, food, and hearts, a symbol of the community she'd inspired. The teens who'd painted it beamed, and Clara laughed through tears, waving them over for a hug. The block party was a blur of music, food, and stories. People shared how Clara's work had touched them. Keisha, now working at a clothing store, spoke about regaining her confidence. Tom, the veteran, showed off a wooden birdhouse he'd built in training. Even Tina from Rosie's was there, serving coffee and joking about Clara's pancake obsession. As the sun set, the mayor presented Clara with a key to the city, a shiny token that felt heavy in her hands. "I don't know what to say," Clara said into the mic, her voice cracking. "I just saw someone who needed help. You all did the rest." The crowd roared, and Daniel leaned in, whispering, "You started it. Don't forget that." That night, Clara stayed until the last lights were unstrung, talking with people, laughing, feeling a warmth she hadn't known in years. For the first time, she let herself rest in the moment, surrounded by a community that had become her family. The block party marked a turning point. The Clara Evans initiative grew, securing more funding and expanding to help dozens more. Clara stepped into a leadership role, though she insisted on staying hands-on, meeting with participants, connecting them with jobs and housing. Daniel became a mentor in the program, using his story to inspire others. He moved into his own apartment, a small studio he decorated with a photo of the block party, Clara at its center. Clara's health remained a challenge, but she learned to pace herself, leaning on Jamal, Maria, and Sarah. The community center became a beacon, drawing national attention. News outlets covered the initiative, and Clara reluctantly gave interviews, always redirecting praise to the team. "It's not about me," she'd say. "It's about what we can do together." Riverton changed too. The city council passed policies to address homelessness, inspired by Clara's work. Businesses partnered with the initiative, offering jobs and donations. The mural from the block party found a permanent home on the community center wall, a reminder of what one act of kindness could spark. On her 34th birthday, Clara didn't want another party. Instead, she and Daniel returned to Rosie's, sharing pancakes and coffee, just like that first day. "You changed my life," Daniel said, raising his mug. Clara smiled, clinking her mug against his. "You changed mine too." The story of Clara and Daniel became Riverton's story, a testament to resilience, community, and the power of seeing someone who'd been forgotten. And it all started with a meal, a moment, and a woman who refused to look away. If this story moved you, please support our channel. Subscribe, share, and join us in celebrating the people who make a difference every day. Your support keeps these stories alive. Thank you.